What's that one embarrassing moment that keeps coming back to haunt you? Freezing up in the middle of a best man speech. My brain just went completely blank. I had never had a problem with stage fright before, so it caught me off guard and made it worse. When I gave the groom speech at my own wedding, I had a close call of that sort. I'd run the short speech through my head countless times, but the instant I stood in front of the mic my mind went completely blank. And I mean completely, the sort of brain vacuum where a fly can enter one ear, do a lap of honor and exit triumphantly from the other ear without anything slowing it down. It felt like I stared at the crowd for an endless time before the first words of my speech came to me. Once I got started, everything flowed as normal and the speech went well. To the audience, apparently, it felt like the usual dramatic pause gathering of thoughts before a speech. So no one noticed anything weird, but to me, it was an endless eternity of social terror. Unfortunately, one of my best mates committed suicide, and I was doing a reading at his funeral. Unlike the story above, I remembered the words as they were on a bit of paper in front of me. I just didn't remember to breathe while I was speaking. I got about a minute in and then started to feel lightheaded and caught myself before I fell. My mom threw me a graduation party. She had the party in the community room of the local rescue squad and had a table full of food. No one came. Most of the people she invited were fellow graduates, so they had their own thing going on. We gave the food to the rescue squad people. I mostly felt horrible for my mom. Just writing this story made me feel like shit, and it has been 25 years since this happened. When I was in grade 8 we had to give a presentation on a Greek god. I chose to do my project on Zeus. However, I was nervous and for some reason referred to him as Zeus, Jesus with a Z. The presentation was like 8 minutes long and I said it wrong countless times. It wasn't until I finished the presentation a kid asked, "You do know it's pronounced Zeus, right?" Jesus Christ, I'm dead. I was taking a bus home from the beach years ago. When I got close to my stop, I walked to the front of the bus so I would be ready to get off. I was wearing a denim skirt that was a bit loose, but I had been wearing it all day without a problem. Well, the denim had gotten a little wet at the beach, which made it heavier, and it sort of stretched out a bit while I sat during this 2-hour bus ride. So, as I'm standing in the front of this crowded bus, with my hands full of my belongings, I can feel my skirt begin to slide down. I didn't have any hands free to grab it, and nothing to lean against to hold it up, so it fell all the way to the floor. The passengers around me just stared, as if they were in shock. This was pre-everyone glued to their phone days. I stood there in my granny panties, wanting to cry, but I started laughing like a maniac instead. I must have looked like a total nut job. I stopped wearing skirts after that. Dresses are safer. Laughing my freaking butt off. I love how you started laughing. I was mortified. In the moment I figured if I laughed, I had the upper hand and people wouldn't make fun of me. Panic logic is silly, lol. So I was interviewing for a job in the BO industry early on in my career, and it was a panel interview with about 10 people. They asked me what would set me apart from other candidates. So I went into the normal spiel about being a fast learner and easily cross-training in multiple areas. As soon as I said that, one of the guys laughed and a few jaws dropped, and I quickly realized that instead of saying cross-training, I said cross-dressing. What sets me apart from other candidates? Cross-dressing. I did not get the job. This sounds like a Cards Against Humanity card. Laughing my butt off. I was at the airport one time, and during the security check-in, one of the SAP people stuck his hand out in front of me. I proceeded to give him a high five thinking he's trying to be friendly, only to realize that he meant for me to wait in line. Feeling red-faced thinking at it right now. I once tried to shake a random girl's hand who was trying to hold the elevator door open for me. Got called out on it by another girl who witnessed it and spent the rest of the elevator ride very embarrassed. Went to the urinal to take a piss before a C-level meeting and tried to squeeze out a fart and shit myself. I had to clean up in a stall and call in sick from the bathroom. I exited the building out a back fire exit. I cannot stop laughing as I read this. There is a 100% chance I will think of this story and laugh the next time I use a urinal. Finished a phone call to my not So friendly boss with goodbye. Love you. Couldn't look him in the eye for weeks. I was doing a stupid cleanse diet that involved drinking large amounts of psyllium husk powder. After 4 days without a bowel movement, I ended up fainting on the toilet while straining to squeeze out a huge log of shit. My younger brother heard me falling and hitting my head against the bathtub. He rushed in to find me passed out on the floor, naked with shit smeared between my legs and all down the front of the toilet. This was years ago, and my brother and I can laugh at it now, but the memory still sneaks up on me at night when I'm trying to get to sleep. You ever shit so hard you launch yourself off the toilet and knock yourself unconscious? Thin host has. When I was 13 I got my first bikini swimsuit. The top didn't have a strap on the neck or anything but just stretched across my chest. I went swimming one day with my cousins while on vacation at my grandmother's house. I swam all day long and the bikini stayed in place just as it should. We packed up and I threw on that shirt over my swimsuit for the ride home. Grandma did not go swimming with us and was at home eating popcorn at her table when we came in. There were uncles, aunts, and older cousins at the table with her. When she saw me in my shirt she jokingly asked if that was all I was wearing. I said nope and proudly pulled my shirt over my entire chest to show her I had on a swimsuit. I watched as her face changed to shock and she choked on her popcorn. I looked down and what do you know? My freaking top had slid beneath my boobs, exposing them and making them stick sort of straight out because the top was right under them. Everyone at the table just died laughing, all with red faces, putting their heads down and pounding the table howling with laughter. So yeah, I flashed my grandma and some relatives with my boobs. I was horsing around in a public pool with a group of friends and planned to do an elaborate jump dive thing with my boyfriend kind of throwing me in the air, his hands under my feet and pushing up. I shouted look at me right before being thrown in the air. The force of being pushed up through the water pushed my bikini top down. So basically I shouted look at me, then flashed all my friends and a bunch of strangers. I was about 13. Into shock humor and all that. Just being inappropriate and in trying to make a friend uncomfortable. Said his mom had nice tits. He laughed it off. Months later, maybe a year or more, I visit his house with him to stay the night. He introduces me as the friend who said you have nice tits. Easily the worst first impression I've ever made. And she laughed about it and said thanks. But a lesson was learned, and I'm a better man for it. When I was in first grade, I had just recently moved to Oklahoma. My class was doing a showcase for the school assembly in 2 weeks. We were going to do some line dancing, and I was paired up with a boy I really liked for part of the routine. I practiced like a maniac in an attempt to assimilate to my new country classmates' way of life. I guess I had forgotten to give a note to my parents saying that they wanted us to wear cowboy boots for the performance. I showed up to the showcase in flip-flops. The partner section starts happening and I'm kicking my legs like I'm a rocket. My flip-flop flies off into the crowd and hits an older kid in the face. I immediately stop in the middle, but the people behind me didn't get the memo that I launched a projectile into the crowd. The person behind me runs into me and falls into the crowd. This has a domino effect and causes a mini pile-up of 7-year-olds. I hobble off the stage into the bathroom with only one flip-flop. I cried while I waited for my teacher to give me back my shoe. Just started dating this girl. She's half Korean. I go to her parents' Korean church. The whole way there they were explaining how I was going to be greeted by the pastor and I was supposed to be as respectful as possible. Well, seeing that he was Korean, he had quite the accent. He greeted those in front of me. Welcome, welcome. My dumbass thought he was saying where from. So in front of the church and my GF parents, of whom I just had met, I got up and yelled Nick Purvis Bowie Maryland. He looked extremely confused. Didn't Bo just stared at me, and let's just say her parents weren't super hyped. One time in college I walked right out of a presentation I gave without taking questions. I genuinely forgot to ask or answer. Went to the gym and felt the urge to poo, probably due to the pre-workout. Did my business, cleaned up, and proceeded to run my best mile ever on the treadmill. Noticed I was getting a lot of stares and shrugged it off until I noticed some toilet paper on the ground. That's weird, I thought. Turns out I had a bunch of toilet paper in my shorts the whole time. Needless to say, I moved to a different country and started a new life. Edit, it was TP that I used to cover the seat, not wipe my ass with, LOL, and it stuck to me because I had warmed up right before going into the bathroom. I quadruple check myself now. All of them. And every time I remember one again, that sting of cringe hits just as hard as the first time. Begging for my ex to take me back or even just talk to me. That time I ripped ass during the silent drill in school. I have multiple memories come back to me when I'm working out. Kinda ruins the workout, LOL. The one memory that comes back to me the most is when I was in middle school. A group of girls that disliked me got a hold of my phone number and texted me as my crush. We texted all day after school and she wanted to hang out with me, but I told her I can't because of homework or something dumb. So we planned that we hang out the next day and we would meet at the park. The next day I start to get ready and I go to the park and I waited for 3 hours and she never showed up. I messaged her and I wasn't getting a response, so I just ended up going home, disappointed and mad at myself. When I go back to school, a group of girls came up to me and said, "Has a nice date," and I was shocked, wondering how they knew, and then they showed me pictures they took of me just sitting on the bench alone and making fun of how stupid I look. Too long didn't read. Girls get a hold of my number and text me as my crush at the time. How naive I was as a kid. My middle school did a program where a bunch of Japanese students came to visit our school for a couple weeks. I was assigned as a buddy to show someone around and stuff, and at the end of their visit here, they all took a trip to New York City. Only a few of the American students came along, but I was among them. The Japanese teachers wanted to be inclusive, so they took the mic that the bus driver uses to make announcements and kind of like awkwardly interviewed each of us in broken English, though the students didn't seem all that interested. When it was my turn, I got the typical "what do you like to do?" which I tried to shut down quickly with a simple "oh, I'm in choir. I like to sing sometimes." "Oh, why don't you sing for us?" And suddenly, the mic is in my hand. I really am not one for singing solos, especially in front of a bus full of students who probably don't know what the duck is going on. I guess the teacher picked up on this, so she encouraged me to sing a Christmas song, because those are the only songs that the kids would be able to sing along to in English. So I'm thinking, okay, it won't be too bad if they all join in, right? So I start, "Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer." Silence. I painfully sing the entire song, a cappella, completely solo, all eyes on me. Finally, the pain ends, and I crumble into my seat as awkward polite applause ensues. But this wasn't enough for the teacher. She wanted this to be a participatory event, and she didn't care who had to suffer in order to make that happen. So what does she do? Okay, try again. But this time everyone sing along. I pray for it to be a dream. But somehow, the mic is in my hand yet again, her expecting eyes upon me. At this point, all dignity is lost, so I figure why not? Again. I start the song, and again, I sing it completely alone. Duck my life. I was working at the flower department at a grocery store. It's Mother's Day, one of the busiest days for flower shops. End of day. I'm tired, sweaty, and I kinda hate flowers at this point. Guy comes in, we are closing in 10, and I'm like, the audacity internally. But I paste a smile on my face and ask how I can help. He apologizes for being so last minute, and I shake off any frustration I'm feeling. People work and shit, and maybe he just hasn't had time. It's okay. He asks for something nice, but low budget. All the nice stuff is long gone. But still, I'll do what I can. He says fix me up something nice, like I spent more than I can. I have a soft heart. I'll hook him up. I say sure. I'll make it look like it cost you an arm and a leg, haha. He holds up a stump where an arm usually resides and says at least an arm anyway, waving it at me. And then I died. And then there was the time I weighed my boob in chemistry class and got busted, and the whole class saw me. But I think the stump is the worst. Made music and uploaded them to YouTube. A group of friends laughed at my music without knowing I was the producer. I laughed with them. Gave up on my music career. I now only make music for myself. One day in middle school, I walked into my science class to see we all had a small whiteboard on our desks for an activity for the day. Before class started, my friend and I started writing different kick me type signs on them for fun. Then, class started but we kept writing them and showing them to each other. I wrote one and too loudly whispered "Psst" to get my friend's attention. Then held up my sign to him which said, "My brain is in my butt." Since I was too loud, it caught the teacher's attention. She saw my board, then announced loudly, "Yeah, well, according to your grades, that's probably true."